Hi, my name is Suzanne Klaus. I'm a registered dietitian. Today, I want to talk about getting back to the basics. There's so much health and wellness information out there. We can see it online from our friends, family member. We see these like shiny little spots, and we're like, oh, I want to go try that, or I want to try this. And if we're not doing the basics, those little extras aren't going to make much of a difference. So, I want to talk about getting back to the basics. So we have nutrition, sleep, movement, stress management, and mindfulness and self-awareness. We want to make sure we're fueling properly. So whatever our goal is, we want to make sure we're getting enough nutrition, not too much. So the first category we have macronutrients. So macronutrients are things like protein, carbohydrates, and fats. And those all contribute calories or energy. And depending on what our goal is, we may need to take in less energy than we're expending. So if our goal is fat loss, we want to take in less energy than we're expending. If we have a performance goals, we want to make sure that we're getting enough calories to meet demands of our training. So then within our total energy, we need to look at, okay, are we getting enough protein, carbohydrates, fats? So protein is the big one to focus on. It has so many benefits from if your goal is fat loss, if you don't get enough protein and we're in that calorie deficit, your body's going to want to lose muscle or lose muscle first. And you're not going to lose as much fat. When we get enough protein and are in a calorie deficit, your body's going to lose fat. So it helps to preserve that lean mass. As we age, it's easy to lose muscle mass. Getting enough protein and continuing strength training, that's going to help preserve our lean mass as we age. Protein also helps with our immune system, balancing our body's pH and fluids. Um, so that becomes super important. It also helps in recovery and repair of our cells. So after a hard workout or a training session, getting enough protein after is going to help start that recovery process. And then if you're thinking about, okay, well, how much protein do I need? So if you look, you'll see that the RDA for protein, so the recommended dietary allowance is 0.8 grams per kilogram. And if you take your body weight divide by 2.2, you'll get your weight in kilograms. That 0.8 is just to prevent deficiency. So if you're thinking about what do like I optimally need, then you're going to start going up into 1.4 all the way up to 2.2 grams per kilogram. And that's going to depend on, how active you are and other goals. Then moving into our micronutrients. So our micronutrients are vitamins, minerals, um, and fruits and vegetables are going to provide a lot of this, and it's going to help our body get all of the vitamins, minerals that it needs to support all of the processes that our body does. Then we have water. So water helps lubricate our joints. It helps to filter out toxins. And we want to make sure we're getting roughly half our weight in ounces of water. If it's, a little bit hotter out, or if you're doing more activity, you may need a little bit more. So, what are some action items to take away? So, are you getting your protein? And if you're not, that's okay. If you're way off, don't go from, 50 grams to 150 grams overnight. Choose one meal to start with. And if you're wondering which meal and it doesn't matter to you, I would say breakfast would be a really great place to start to make sure you have enough protein at that meal. Um, and then the other big action item that you can take from this is getting half a plate of veggies with your meals. So are you doing those two things? Next up, our sleep is so important. That is when our body recovers. So we have that physical recovery and we have the mental recovery. We have like little scrubbers in our brain that's like cleaning up. So then when we wake up, we're feeling refreshed, we're more mentally clear, and we have human growth hormone that's being released when we sleep, which is helping with our muscle repair and growth. And then if you've probably noticed, if you go like a few nights without getting enough sleep, you're moody. So like your emotional regulation is off. Um, Mental clarity is down. So making sure we're prioritizing sleep is key. Um, we want it to be uninterrupted so we can go through all the different stages of sleep, and we want a minimum of 7 hours. Um, and we want to keep the hours the same each night. So if we're going to bed at 9 one night, we want to stay 9 the next night, 9 the next night. That's the best because our body likes rhythm. So if we can stay on a rhythm, it's going to know when we need melatonin to increase, cortisol to decrease. So the more we can stay consistent from night to night, the better. Things we can do to help our sleep is to stay off electronics or dim the lights at least like an hour before bed. Um, if you're somebody who struggles with sleep, like getting outside within the first hour of waking to expose your body to natural sunlight, that can really help to set your circadian rhythm. Or you can do a sun lamp if it's a time of year where when you wake up, it's not light out. So action items we can take from there is just staying off electronics. The other thing I didn't mention was when we eat, we're more in a rest and digest state. So our body is wanting to digest our food. When we sleep, our body is also using that rest and digest state. So by giving our system 3 hours to work through that food, it's going to allow us to have better sleep through the night. If you don't have any sleep issues, you sleep just fine. Maybe you don't need to be as strict to that 3 hours, but if you're somebody who has trouble sleeping, definitely trying to stick to that 3 hour window could be helpful for sleep. And then avoiding alcohol. Alcohol is something that can disrupt our sleep. We might fall asleep a lot quicker, but it's going to hurt our quality of sleep, or if we're going to sleep more shallow, and we're probably going to wake up in the middle of the night and have trouble going back to sleep. So consistent movement. Steps are huge. So just day to day, how many steps are you getting? When I first got my watch that tracks steps, I was very surprised to see on some days I was getting like less than 3,000 steps. It was not being very active. And then I started to become more mindful and aware of that. And now I've also started running more. So my step count is definitely up on a daily basis. But how many steps are you getting? You know, we have so many jobs where we're just sitting at a desk. We want to try to get a minimum of 8,000 steps a day. That's where some research has shown. It can be beneficial from an inflammation standpoint. So I know we all hear 10,000 steps, but if you can at least get 8,000, that's a really good starting point. And if you are only getting 2,000, try bumping up to 3,000 for a week and then 4,000. You don't have to make a huge change. Strength training is so important, especially as we age, to preserve that lean mass and muscle and mobility. We want to be able to keep our full range of motion. And if we're not using it, we're losing it. So I know a lot of you guys do the mobility class and do, we do our cars. So our controlled articular rotations, which is basically a joint circle. That is helping to preserve whatever range of motion that we do currently have. And then our pails and rails, that is helping to get more range of motion. But keeping with mobility as we age is so important and pairs well with that strength training. So for action items, are we doing our strength training a minimum of 2 times a week, getting 8,000 steps a day, and are we incorporating some kind of mobility work? And again, don't think about going from 0 to 100. Ease into it. So stress management is so important. We have our sympathetic and our parasympathetic nervous system. Our sympathetic nervous system is our stressed fight and flight. Our parasympathetic is that rest and digest stage. We do not want to spend all of our time in fight and flight. We want to be mostly in rest and digest and then go into our fight and flight on occasion when we need it. There is such thing as good stress. If you think about having a little stress and it helping you to perform, to focus, to prepare, that's good. But then it goes away once the event is over. When we have this chronic stress that just lingers, that is what we really want to make sure we're managing. So we can prepare. So this is more so like planning ahead. Sometimes we just don't set ourselves up for success, and we, wake up the morning of things that we should have done the night before we didn't do. Things are piling up, or we, scrolled on our phone. We got sucked into like an hour of scrolling the night before, and we didn't realize it, and then we didn't get enough sleep. So how can you prepare? How can you set your day up for success? How can you set your environment up for success? If you have a goal to like eat breakfast, but you don't have easy access foods in your fridge, or you're not waking up with enough time to give yourself to make breakfast, that's just going to cause more stress and exacerbate things. So how can you best set yourself up to succeed? And then there's also the side of like increasing our stress tolerance. So how much stress can we handle? And that's going to be like breathing. So like being able to take ourselves out of that stress state, being out in nature without our cell phones, any kind of meditation, yoga nidra. I know a lot of people have done that. Those are all really good for that. So what are the action items you can do? Do we set time aside so we can plan ahead and set our week up for success? Are we managing our times on our devices? Are we working 100% of the time at 60%, or are we actually working at work and then giving ourselves time to be off 100% when we are not on the clock? And do we have our devices with us all the time? Because that's just going to cause more stress. Like the phone is basically like junk food for our brain. And are we incorporating some kind of breathing or meditation? And are we spending time in nature? So mindfulness and self-awareness. So this is about knowing yourself and being present, all without judgment. And I think that judgment piece is huge, because when we start to get judgmental of ourselves, things just end up like falling apart, and we're not making progress in that direction that we want to do. So when we talk about knowing yourself, think about, when's the last time you thought about like what are your core values as a person, not the values that you think you should have or that your parents try to enforce on you, but what are your core values, and who are you as a person? Like what's important to you? And do your goals that you have, do they align with that? And is how you spend your time, does that align with that? It's so easy to just get caught in like the hamster wheel of life where we wake up, we go through our day, we go to sleep, where we're not being intentional with our choices and how we're spending our time. So if we know ourselves and we're identifying the areas that are really important to us, that can help us succeed with our goals. Being present, so being present in the moment, especially when we're eating, is super helpful. Checking in with ourselves. Why are we eating? Are we eating out of physical hunger, or are we eating because we're bored or stressed? And when we're present, we're going to be more aware of these actions. So things you can take away, or do if you haven't identified your core values in a while, go ahead and think about that. And think about how those values fit into the goals that you have set for yourself right now. That's just going to help anchor it. And creating a wellness vision. So, what does wellness look like for you? So, it's not necessarily about saying, I want to weigh 120 pounds and fit into my swimsuit. It's more about what are those values that you're looking to incorporate? How are you living your life? Is movement part of your life? Um, are balanced choices part of your life? What's important to you? And then looking at that on a daily basis. Because oftentimes we create something or we're like, I have this game plan, but then we don't look at it again. So we're not going to follow through with it. So keeping it at the forefront of your mind can be super helpful. And then checking in with yourself before eating is also another big one that will help you identify, am I physically hungry, emotionally hungry? What is going on with that? And then you have the choice of making a decision if you're not physically hungry to address what is actually going on. So, what is one small action that you maybe haven't been doing that you want to start doing? And again, start small. Like, for example, with the steps, if you're getting 2,000 steps, don't just go to 8,000. Bump it up a little bit to what you think is maybe a little bit of a challenge, but is um, doable. So I would love to hear your whatever action that you decided to do. You can, drop it in the comments or feel free to send me a message. And I hope you guys have a wonderful day. If you have any questions, just let me know. Bye.